And I would like to pose this question to Caritas, Islamic Relief and UNICEF. I mean, because I understood the Federation is already working on that. So we are still in a phase where we do needs assessment, which means how much does it cost to build things back, but far away from building back better in a way of adaptation and risk reduction. We are still in a phase where temporary solutions which are implemented in the first phase are going to become permanent solution because there is this gap between humanitarian and development, thus even increasing risk, what we can see. Climate change and the scientific evidence we have now, I mean, is for me the move from system which is based on empirical data to a future-oriented system. So are there already discussions going on to concentrate, to have a strategy or a concept to address the hotspots? Because you work with local partner structures, you work with national structures and stuff like that. So is this part of thinking and discussion at your organizations to say, okay, let's develop a concept, let's look in our toolbox and let's look or have a close look and go for quality so that we know we have to increase capacity, but what we do is done better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I like that it makes the debate practical. I'm not sure who would like to react first to the question. Saeed?
Okay.
And then after that, Lesley-Anne.
I agree that quality in terms of humanitarian response needs to be increased, and this is something that Islamic Relief and a lot of our partners are looking at. The dilemma that we continue to face is that of resources and reaching as many people as we can. And sometimes decisions have to be made which compromises quality in order to reach more people. And that's something that I guess all humanitarian organizations face. The reality is that we need to secure more support and more funding in order to improve quality. I think that there is a long way to go in the humanitarian sector to improve quality, but that's not to say that there isn't magnificent work that's been done out there, and I think those are the areas that we need to look at and learn from those. In the issue of advocacy, we've learned that simply delivering aid is not enough. We need to campaign, and we need to not only lobby those that actually pollute the environment, but also those that are affected as well in order to prepare them and get them ready for disasters and things like that. So I agree with your comments. I think we do have a lot to learn, and we hope that we're working in partnership with many organizations that we can go that extra mile. Thank you.
Lesley-Anne?
I think I just add to that by picking up to what our first speaker in the floor ever, von Ulreich, I think was expressing very clearly. We can no longer look at clear dividing lines between what is humanitarian, what is development, what is advocacy. And I think the way we address the quality issue, the accountability issue, the transparency issue is that we need to have a holistic approach now to, are we into agriculture, are we into water, are we into disaster relief, are we into peace building? What is the impact now of climate-related disasters? What is the impact of so many factors across that, which makes it impossible for you to say, sorry, this is just humanitarian. We're simply missing out on too much if we try to divide that. And equally with the aid architecture and the way we are structured, unless we see this now as something that's holistic, we're going to miss out too on quality. So I would, that is a key issue for us, and we are addressing that at the beginning of assessment. So we have to look at, firstly, everything we do now in development through the lens of climate justice and poverty.
Thank you. I think that's come up a few times now, the need to pool knowledge, not just between humanitarian aid organizations, but also between the different boxes out there at the moment. And I think maybe I should just ask you in between here, if you have to make a prediction, what do you think the face of the humanitarian aid community will look like 10 years from now when we are much more into this crisis than we are today?
Well, I think that the face of the humanitarian community has been changing quite a lot in the last 2 to 3 years, because there has been an adoption of the cluster approach, an assigning of responsibilities among the various organizations, not just among the UN agencies. But I think this has helped, and it's been a growing and painful process sometimes, but I think is now beginning to work more effectively. I think organizations, UNICEF is one, have put into place surge capacities, people ready to go to respond to disasters. But I also think as part of, this sort of intersection of humanitarian development, there is no clear line. It's a completely blurred line today. UNICEF is uniquely positioned because it is one of the few organizations that's almost equally divided between humanitarian and development work. And so this sort of blurred line becomes, something that we have to look at across the board in terms of when you're looking at this, the preparedness issues for disaster, for example, working with governments as, country teams, as organizations that work in the countries themselves, building not only that national government capacity, but as many have pointed out, the need for local communities to buy in. One of the ways to do this is through education. We have now implemented with countries environmental education as one of the elements now of curriculum in schools. Well, this gives the opportunity to use the young people and the children to train also the parents about how to be prepared for disasters, how to work at the community level, how to put into place warning systems and so forth. So I think that all of this needs to be factored in sort of this new environment in which we're operating. I think there's some other things that have to be looked at that haven't been talked about a lot, but more and more the populations of the world are moving from primarily rural to primarily urban. The urban populations, many are moving into the slums. It is the slum areas that are often in the most vulnerable areas to floods, to all of these disaster-related type things. I mean, do we need better expertise from a humanitarian/development level in how to do urban planning and where populations should be allowed to live versus where land should be preserved for, wetlands and so forth? And then I also think there needs to be more opportunity to learn from others. I mean, we had a discussion at lunch today about how do you learn about things like desalination from the Maldives in other island countries where water sources are becoming less and less. And I think as there is building back, I've been asking this question over and over of people that are working on the Myanmar rebuild. Are they rebuilding, or even in tsunami? Are we rebuilding into disaster-prone areas, or should we be looking at ways to rebuild in other areas and help countries develop the capacity to look at where to relocate populations so that these vulnerable populations aren't subjected over and over and over again to the same disasters?
Thank you very much. I think let's take another question from the floor, and then I'm going to come back to the panel. Where is the microphone at the moment? Can we have it right in front here, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention with regard to the preparedness of the governments, I think all governments need to be prepared for disasters now. And all governments, we saw in the United States, in New Orleans, what happened there. There was no preparedness there. And so it's not the developing countries or the developed countries. I think it's all over the world. We have to create this awareness. And as she mentioned, we have been having these environmental studies in Maldives for the last 22 years. And we had better, we were better organized than most of the Indian Ocean tsunami hit countries because we had these studies. The children were able, exactly as she has mentioned, the children were able to educate their parents on these measures. And we were able to mobilize people. We were able to, although it is a very scattered population in 850 kilometers long area and tiny little islands, but still we were able to do that. So the